blessings and welcome to the path to freedom, this beautiful path that we get to walk, where we get to set ourselves free to awaken, where we get to set ourselves free to transform our lives forever and for the better, over and over and over again, where we get to set ourselves free to be in ever-expanding love and joy and harmony and wholeness and beauty and abundance, where we get to set ourselves free to soar, to shine, to glow, from limitation, from lack, from a sense of separation, from fears, worries, and doubts. There are so many things that this path entails. It is such a beautiful and wonderful path to walk. So my name is Daniel Roqueo, and I'm very happy and grateful that you are choosing to be on this path, that you're choosing to walk this path, that you're willing enough, that you're courageous enough, that you're saying yes to doing this, because we do need to say yes to it. This doesn't just happen. This is us becoming conscious participants in the unfolding of our lives, in allowing, so that we may allow for ever greater and grander expressions of whom we are to emerge. So this is about awareness, this is about consciousness, and our exercising our awareness in reclaiming our minds, in reclaiming our sanity. I mean, I could go on for probably days just articulating and describing what it means to be walking this path, but we're not going to be here for days, but we're going to be here for a brief period of time, and we're going to explore a very specific topic. And the topic, I believe, is trust, 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 all is well. I would like to add to that, but that topic would become too long, but I would like to add, even in the midst of this. So trust, 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 all is well, even in the midst of this. And this is just as much a reminder to myself as to any one of you tuning in. And just to give, as we are moving through, and I'm going to give a brief background in a brief moment, but as we're moving along this beautiful path, we will always be called to move through challenges. We will always be called to allow for expansion to happen, for unfolding to happen. That's the whole purpose of life. That's the only reason why life exists in the first place, so that this benevolent, loving presence, we can call it that, we can call it God, we can call it spirit, we can call it the universe, we can call it energy, we can call it whatever we want to call it, but so that it may continuously know more of itself, reveal more of itself, express more of itself. So that's the whole purpose of creation. That's the reason why creation exists, right? And so we will continuously, especially as we're walking along this path, as we are becoming conscious participants in the unfolding of our lives. Many individuals are not all that conscious participants, but they are more like leaves to the wind. They're allowing life to move them in whichever direction life moves them. But we want to be and we want to become more and more conscious, more and more aware, more and more mindful of the choices that we're making. We want to become more and more intentional in our lives, having intentions, having visions, having dreams that we consciously are moving toward. And as we do, as we are moving along the path of manifestation, allowing for something greater and grander to emerge, for that greater and grander to emerge, we need to be the expanding channels and conduits through which the emergence may happen. So we're not creating anything really, we are only midwifing something, allowing something to birth itself in us and through us, which means that we need to expand. So I am moving through a space where of tremendous expansion and tremendous transformation, where a lot of who I used to be is dissolving and something completely new is emerging. And as this expansion is happening, and I'm actually, me and my family are actually moving just in a few weeks. And we've been planning this for some time, and just the other day, we realized that we had overlooked something. We realized that there was this, I was gonna say a small detail. It is seemingly small, but the ramifications, the effects of it are quite immense. We have overlooked this detail, and we just became aware of it yesterday. Which means that the surface mind instantly jumps into, oh, I need to fix this, or actually that's not at all what it jumps into. My surface mind moves into, this cannot be fixed in the short period of time that is left before the move, and this needs to be sorted out before the move. This cannot be done. There's not enough time. There's not enough, and I don't have the strength to deal with this right now. I don't have the energy to deal with this right now. I don't have the time to deal with this right now. And yet it needs to be dealt with, right? And so this is oftentimes what happens when we come face to face with a challenge. The surface mind, the egoic structures immediately jump into trying to find the solution or come up with a solution or figure it out, right? But that's not how the solution happens. That's not how doors open. That's not how we make ourselves open and available for the solution to reveal itself. Every single possibility already exists. So in this particular case, the possibility exists, I mean, in the infinite mind. Every single possibility exists in the mind of God, in the infinite mind of the one mind, of the infinite intelligence. So the possibility for me and my family exists where we are not making this move. The possibility exists for me and my family where we make the move, but we delay it or postpone it. The possibility exists where we make the move and it is so smooth and it is so effortless and it is so flowy. So all of these possibilities exist. What is ours to do is not to find or figure out how to allow for a certain possibility to emerge, but what is ours to do is to actually lock on to the highest possibility. And this is where the topic comes in. So what is ours to do is to trust that even though there seems to be a mountain looming just ahead of us, and we need to surpass it, or we need to climb over it, or we need to go around it, or we need to find a way to go under it, just because there seems to be a mountain. And I'm reminded of a line from Pink's song where she's singing, that song, Cover Me in Sunshine, where she sings that even from a distance, the mountains look like tiny hills, or something like that. So that's really what we need to do, to shift our perspective, to come back to trusting that even in the midst of this, all is well. Even in the midst of this, something wonderful is happening. Even in the midst of this, everything is working for our highest good. Even in the midst of this, perfect preparation and unfolding is always happening. We are not making the unfolding happen. We are not making any of this happen any more than anything in nature is making itself happen. Plant a lilac seed in the ground, and it is not that seed that is making the lilac bush happen. But there's a divine intelligence, an infinite intelligence that is going to work within that seed, using that seed, so to allow for the lilac bush to emerge. When we cut ourselves When we injure ourselves, we are not the ones making that injury heal. We are not the ones making our hearts beat. We are not the ones making the sun shine or rise and set. We are not the ones making the tide go in and out. We're not the ones making the seasons come and go. We're not the ones making anything. What is ours to do is to allow that which is already happening to happen. We can obstruct it, we can delay it, we can hinder it by holding on to the fears, the worries, the doubts, by holding on to control, by micromanaging, wanting to figure it all out, asking, how can I do this? It is not a matter of how we can do it. It is a matter of that moving into thy will be done. That is one of the most powerful affirmations we can ever lean into. Thy will be done. And oftentimes when we hear that affirmation, the surface mind leaps into reaction mode, saying, oh, if I relinquish my control, if I give up my sovereignty, if I give up my micromanaging, how do I know? What if something bad happens? So once again, we get to come back to the 3 pillars of trust, 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 trusting the allness of this benevolent presence. It is all there is. It is fully present in every space and place. It is never absent. It is never absent. It is never more over here than over there. But it is all there is. All there is. Trusting its benevolence, that it is always for itself. Just like a tree or a bush or a flower is always for all aspects of itself. If a flower were to favor 1 or 2 petals above the others, that flower, the radiance, the beauty of that flower would be greatly diminished. And in exactly the same way, God is always for itself, and as we're all unique, perfect, whole, complete expressions of it. We're not separate from God. We're not separate from the universe. We're not separate from energy. We're not separate from this benevolent, loving presence. It cannot ever diminish itself. It cannot ever compromise itself. It is always for itself. So we get to trust that it is always for itself. It is always moving itself in alignment with that highest intent and deepest desire to reveal more of itself, to know more of itself, to express more of itself in us and through you, in us and through me, in us and through all of creation. So God would not be served by delaying the expansion, by delaying the unfolding. God would not be served by hindering it. God serves itself by being in a continuous, eternal, infinite state and space of expansion, progression, moving forward, unfolding. So it is always for us. Everything is always for us, even when we cannot see it. The 3rd pillar of trust is trusting the perfection of this benevolent, loving presence. The perfect preparation is always happening. The perfect timing is always happening. The perfect action is always happening. It does not always square with our preferences. It doesn't always show up in the way we would like it to show up. But we don't know. With our small and limited finite minds, we do not know what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and when it needs to happen. God does. So we can always trust that Spirit is always expressing itself perfectly. So trust, trust, trust. All is well. Because the only thing that is happening here and now is this benevolent, loving presence being itself, doing itself, living itself. And as we come back to trust, which elevates our vibration, which expands our consciousness, the whole universe rises up to meet us there. So now we're locking on to a higher possibility, not through figuring out how to get it from the invisible dimension into this physical dimension, but through us just leaning into the feeling tone that all is well. So in this now moment, I was going to say a little bit overdue, but the Spirit is always expressing itself perfectly, time-wise, and any other kind of wise. the timing is just perfect. So in this now moment, let us take a deep conscious breath, breathing in and releasing. Breathing in and releasing. And this is how we do it. This is how we reset the mind. This is how we reclaim the mind. This is how we take our minds back. This is how we allow for the feeling tone that all is well to emerge. We don't need to see that all is well. All we need to do is to feel it, to take on the feeling tone that all is well and give the peace that follows permission to run us. Permission to inform our choices. Permission to penetrate, to infuse every cell, every action, every function, every organ, every aspect of our physical bodies, our emotional bodies, our mental bodies, our spiritual bodies. So that we, not that so that but we want to relax, we want to rejoice, and we want to just be. Allowing the manifestation to happen, allowing ourselves to be guided, moved, and led, allowing ourselves to be sourced, fueled, and funded. Like Jesus said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. He wasn't dealing with the physical or the surface appearances. He didn't care about the surface appearances. All he cared about was his conscious connection with the divine. He called it Father. I call it God or Spirit or the benevolent loving presence. What we call it, it doesn't matter. But we want to steep ourselves in being consciously connected with it. We're always connected with it. We could not ever, we have not ever, we will not ever be separated from it. But are we consciously connecting with it? Are we consciously leaning into trusting the allness, trusting the benevolence, trusting the perfection of this benevolent loving presence? Are we consciously leaning into feeling, knowing and feeling that all is well, even in the midst of this? Always and in all ways, all is well. Something wonderful is happening. Everything is working for our highest good. Perfect preparation and unfolding is always happening. I don't know about you, but I do know about me. And coming into this session, I was experiencing turbulence. I was experiencing stress. I was experiencing doubt. My mind, as I'm reminding myself that that was my experience, in my mind, I observe the mind looking for the reasons for my experiencing these. So the surface mind is pulling in the direction, is pulling me back in the direction back to that experience. But I am so steeped in the knowing that all is well. Now, 10 minutes from now, it may be completely different. I may need to do this work over again. But this is the work that we need to do. This is the work that we're being called to do, to come back to trusting. Come back to the knowing and the feeling that all is well, over and over and over again, so that we more and more hang out here in these higher vibrations, in these higher frequencies. And as we do, the whole universe rises up to meet us here. The sacred laws can only reflect and correspond to where we are in consciousness. we're to our predominant feeling tone. So as we hang out here, the solutions to everything and anything, it will reveal itself. The challenges, they will dissolve because we are not a vibrational match to them. We're a match to something different. We're locking on to a higher possibility. And that possibility is now what is being called forth. The possibility where everything is working out beautifully, with ease and grace. The possibility where God moves us in such a beautiful, perfect, powerful, magnificent way. Where there's such a beautiful flow to our lives. That is what hanging out in this high vibration yields. But we need to do it. We need to make the choice to move ourselves out of the victimhood, out of the blame, out of the fear mongering, the worry mongering, the doubt mongering. We need to make the choice. We need to do the inner work. We do not need to do it by ourselves. We can always lean into asking for help, but we need to do it. We need to make the choice. And as we do, the whole world, as those beautiful principles of transformation remind us, if we want anything to change, we need to change. Unless we change, nothing ever will change. And when we begin to change, everything begins to change. So when we lift our vibration, when we expand our consciousness, everything begins to change. And as we sustain this higher vibration, as we sustain this expanded consciousness, as we sustain the feeling tone that all is well, even when our eyes cannot see it, then everything begins to change. Our experience instantly begins to change. And as we sustain that feeling tone, the conditions will begin to change. The circumstances will begin to change. Because we're now in vibrational alignment with a higher possibility. So let's take another couple of deep conscious breaths. Breathing in. And releasing. And just putting a smile on our faces makes all the difference in the world. So as we take this next deep breath, let's put a smile. Let's invite a smile to play across our face. Breathing in. And releasing it. And it doesn't matter if we don't feel like smiling. In this moment, maybe this is something new emerging. But in this moment, let's say out loud. And if you perhaps are in a space where you don't feel comfortable saying it out loud, whisper it, but say it. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling that all is well. I am feeling that something wonderful is happening. I'm feeling that everything is working for my highest good. I'm feeling that perfect preparation and unfolding is happening now, always and forever, in all ways. And leaning into these over and over again. Repetition is the key. Repetition is the key to reprogramming our subconscious mind. Repetition is the key to learning anything, everything. So leaning into whatever affirmations, these are the ones that I go to. These are my go-to affirmations. But leaning into any affirmations on a regular basis. Allowing our moments in between to be spaces where we lean into affirmations rather than just idly moving through these moments in between. Giving the mind permission to go, or our attention permission to go wherever it goes. We can consciously make use of these moments in between, leaning into raising our vibration, expanding our consciousness, until we more and more and more live in the higher vibrations, in the expanded consciousness. And then we get to invite a new level of vibration, a new level of consciousness. But we need to do the work. We need to do the work. That's the essence of all of this. We get to choose whether or not to turn our attention toward the problems, to toward the issues, toward that which is not working in our lives, or toward making ourselves open and available for the solutions, the answers to reveal themselves. And in saying that we are making ourselves open and available for the answers, what I'm really saying is that we are the answer. We are the answer. All right, I could go on and on and on about this. I'm so inspired right now, and I so love hanging out in this space. But we will save some for another space, another time. So the invitation for us is, what is the invitation? The invitation for us is to turn our awareness toward our minds, to turn our awareness toward our habitual ways of moving through life. What are we giving energy to? What are we giving our attention to? The problems, the issues, that which is not working, that which is not to our liking, that which we don't want to experience, or toward that which we want to experience? Are we doing the work of, to the best of our ability, staying in a high vibration? Are we winning the argument over the ego? The ego has so many excuses. The ego has so many reasons for us to stay in those lower vibrations, to buy into, to hang on to hold on to. Victim stories, fear, worry, doubt, a sense of lack, scarcity, separation. So what are we giving power to? The ego or the benevolent, loving presence, to God, to possibilities? What are we locking onto? Maybe that's the invitation. What are we habitually locking onto? The lower possibilities or the higher possibilities where us and our lives are concerned? Questions we can ask. To augment and support this invitation is to on a regular basis stop and ask ourselves, where am I turning my attention? What is my mind engaging in right now? What am I calling forth right now? Because whatever we are in vibrational alignment with, that is what we're calling forth into our experience. So whatever story we are engaging in, whatever belief we're engaging in, it might be one of the highest possibilities or the lowest possibilities, but whichever we are allowing for it, we are making it welcome into our experience. Powerful invitations, powerful questions, powerful work that we get to do, a powerful and magnificent path that we get to walk. Thank you so much for tuning in, for participating. Until we meet again, I, as always, bless our days, and I bless our ways in the full knowing that all is well, that something wonderful is happening. Everything is working for our highest good, and perfect preparation and unfolding is happening now, always, and forever. With much love.